Do you know who is the biggest cloud service provider right now in the market? You are correct. It is AWS Cloud. So AWS Cloud has acquired more than 40% of the cloud service provider customer space. So it is very essential as part of your IT career journey. You need to know few things related with AWS and its services. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what all categories of the services where AWS provide various kinds of cloud managed services. So in this video, you will get to know all services which are being provided by AWS. So let's begin. So as part of the AWS services, there are various categories of services. So you can see from analytics to storage, there are almost more than 20 plus categories where different kinds of cloud services are being provided by AWS. So let's start with first cloud service provided by AWS, which is analytics. So the first service provided by AWS is Athena. So Athena is federated engine, and using Athena, you can perform interactive analytics on cloud platform, AWS cloud platform. Then the second service which is provided by AWS is AWS Clean Rooms. So it is a collective data set without sharing and revealing underlying raw data. So if you don't want to reveal your underlying data, you have to provide that collaborative collective data set. That's where AWS Clean Rooms are useful. Coming to the next service, which is Cloud Search. As part of the managed search service, you can use Cloud Search. Then coming to the next one is AWS Data Exchange. So if you want to find, subscribe, and use third-party data for that purpose, you can use AWS Data Exchange. And if you want to define your own data pipeline, that's where data pipeline, that orchestration service is available from AWS side. And if you want to use Hadoop framework, we have a managed service on AWS platform, which is EMR, Elastic MapReduce. Coming to the next service, which is Amazon FinSpace. So suppose you want to analyze financial industry data, right? If you want to store, catalog, and prepare and analyze financial data, that's where Amazon FinSpace service is very. Coming to the next service, which is AWS Glue. So AWS Glue is a serverless data integration. So if you want to perform some data integration, then that's where AWS Glue is very popular. Then coming to the next one is AWS Glue Data Brew. So visual data preparation tool to clean and normalize data for analytics and machine learning. So if you want to do some cleansing activity and its visualization, so that's where AWS Glue Data Brew service is very popular. Coming to the next service is Kinesis. So if you want to do some real-time streaming data, that's where Kinesis is very popular. AWS Lake Formation. So if you want to create your own secure data lake, then you can definitely leverage AWS Lake Formation service. Suppose you want to have your own Kafka cluster on AWS platform, you can use MSK, that is Managed Service Kafka. So suppose you want to deploy your own Elasticsearch cluster on Amazon, so that's where Amazon Open Search service comes into the picture, and you can leverage it and you can set up your own Elasticsearch cluster. Coming to the last service, that is Amazon Redshift. So as part of the data warehouse solutioning, we have very popular service on AWS, that is Amazon Redshift. So that is all about analytics. So coming to the next service, that is application integration. We have almost 16 services are available there. So Amazon AppFlow. So what is Amazon AppFlow? Suppose you want to integrate application and automate the data flow without code. So that's where Amazon AppFlow, the service is available. Amazon Event Bridge. So serverless service for building event-driven application. So suppose you want to build event-driven application, so you can use Event Bridge Amazon service as part of your event-driven application. Coming to the next one is Manage Apache. So suppose you want to schedule various jobs. So without any provisioning or managing service, you can use Airflow directly on Amazon platform. Coming to the next part, which is Amazon queue, that is message queue and rapid queue. Suppose you want to set up your broker service architecture for active MQ and rapid MQ, you can use Amazon. Then there is very interesting service, that is simple notification notification service. So as part of your publisher and subscriber architecture, you want to publish and you want to get that data. So that's where SNS, that is simple notification service, is very important. Then apart from that, we have a simple queue service. So suppose you want to queue any message on Amazon platform, so you can use simple queue service as well. Then there is a step function service which is used for coordinate distributed application, so that you can achieve using step function. So last in the list is workflow service for coordinating application component. So if you want to have any workflow coordination, so that's where you can use SWF service as part of your application integration. So these are the services which are exposed by Amazon as part of the application integration. So moving on to the next service, which is augmented reality and virtual reality. So suppose you want to play around with any application which is related with augmented reality, virtual reality. So you can use Amazon Sumerian service exposed by AWS platform. So when you set up your cluster or when you use all these services Amazon platform, so that's where your costing plays very important, right? And suppose you want to manage your costing service, so we have AWS cost management services. So from that, the first service is AWS application cost profiler. So when you set up Amazon cluster, you need to manage the cost of that cluster, and that you can manage using AWS cost management services available on Amazon platform. So the first one in the list is Amazon application cost profiler. So if you want to gauge the cost per tenant and its workload, so you can use cost profiler service from AWS cost management. Then another service is there which is AWS billing conductor. So simplifying your billing practices that you can do using billing conductor. Now coming to the budget, suppose you want to set up your custom budget and receive alerts for those upper or lower limit of the budget, you can use AWS budgets service. Coming to the next service, which is AWS Cost Explorer. So you can explore your cost and its usage using AWS Cost. So we have a last service, which is digital catalog, where you can find, buy and deploy software, that is AWS Market. So you can use AWS Market subscription to buy, deploy your softwares. So you are really interested in blockchain technology and you want to explore what possible things you can do in blockchain technology. So from Amazon side, we have Amazon Managed Blockchain service where you can set up scalable blockchain network. So you can definitely leverage Amazon blockchain service to explore blockchain network. Coming to the next service, which is business applications. So as part of the business applications, we have almost 20 services are there. So the first one in the list is Alexa for business. So suppose you want to use Alexa and leverage Alexa for your business purpose. So you can definitely think of using Alexa for business AWS service. Then there is another service which is Amazon Chime. So it is for communication service that transform the online meeting. So if you want to use any meeting platform on AWS, so you can definitely think of Amazon Chime. Then there is Amazon Chime SDK. So if you want to do some real-time communication for your application, so that's where you can use Amazon Chime's SDK service. Then Amazon Connect. As part of the Amazon Connect, it is a contact center that enables engagement at any scale. So I haven't used it, but something which is related with contact engagements. Then coming to the next service, which is Amazon Honeypot. So if you want to build your mobile application, right, and web application without programming, so you can use Amazon Honeypot web service. And suppose you want to engage users via email, SMS, some push messages and analytics, you can use Amazon Pinpoint service. And coming to the next service for sending and receiving emails, that is Amazon Simple Email service. And when it comes to the end-to-end encrypted communication, you can use Amazon Quick R service for that secure communication. Moving on to the next service, which is Amazon Docs. So if you want to store and share documentation, you can use Amazon Docs service. And for email and calendaring services, you can use Amazon Work mail service for setting up your. So that is something which is related with business services. Now moving on to the most interesting and popular component of Amazon services. So that is compute. So as part of the compute, most of you must be aware that EC2, Elastic Cloud Compute, that virtual server, and this service is the most popular service, I think, in the AWS platform. But apart from that, we have AWS App Runner. So you can build and run production web application at scale using AWS App Runner. Apart from that, if you want to do some batch processing, we have a batch service. For building your own image, that virtual image, you can use EC2 image builder and you can upload that image on AWS platform. Deploying your web applications, you can use Elastic Beanstalk service on AWS platform. So another very popular service on AWS platform, which is Lambda function. So if you want to run code without thinking where that code is running, so that's where Lambda server plays very important role. Then coming to the next service is about virtual private servers. So if you want to launch and manage your own virtual private server, so you can use Lightsail AWS service. Moving on to the next service, that is AWS Outpost. Moving on to the next service, that is AWS Outpost service. So this service is for on-premises. As part of your application journey, suppose you want to assemble, deploy, and share serverless application without teams or publicly, you can use serverless application repository. So as part of the compute, here we have the last service, that is AWS Sim Space Weaver. So if you want to build and run large scale spatial simulations, then you can use AWS Sim Space Weaver application. Moving on to the next category in the AWS services, that is containers. So containerization technology is very popular. And suppose you want to maintain your own container registry on AWS platform, you can use Elastic Container Registry. And suppose you want to deploy and run your containers on AWS platform, so that's where you can use Elastic Container Service. And as part of the Kubernetes service, we have a managed service on AWS, that is Elastic Kubernetes Service. And similarly, on AWS platform, suppose you want to explore OpenShift service as part of the managed service, where you don't need to purchase any physical server, but you can leverage the managed service as part of the OpenShift, and that is available also on AWS platform. So that is about containerization and technologies available on AWS platform. Moving on to the next thing, which is customer enablement. Let's see what all services are available there as part of the customer enablement. So the first service in the list is Activate for the Startup. This service provides resources to help startup build and grow on AWS. So if you are from startup company, and if you want to really build your technical solution and grow your business on AWS through this service. So the next service in the list is AWS IQ. So this service complete the projects faster with help of third-party AWS certificate. So if you want to leverage any third-party certified experts, so you can use this AWS IQ service. Then there is next service, which is managed services. So IT operation management for AWS. So whatever IT operations, infrastructure operations are there, and if you want to set up those on AWS, you can use managed services. And support is as part of the customer engagement. So if you want to have that support, so you can leverage this support service. Moving on to the next service in the list, that is database. So when it comes to the databases, there are various types of databases. So first in the list is Amazon Document DB. So if you want to use fully managed MongoDB compatible database service, you can think of Amazon Document DB. Then coming to the next service, which is related with NoSQL. So if you want to set up anything around NoSQL database technical solution, you can use DynamoDB. For in-memory cache, you can use Elastic Cache. Suppose you want to have Cassandra kind of compatible database on an AWS platform, you can use Amazon Keyspaces. And suppose you want to have a in-memory database, that is Redis on Amazon platform, you can use Amazon MemryDB for Redis service. So if you want to build any solution related with graph databases, so you can leverage Neptune service, which is available on Amazon platform. Apart from that, if you want to play with ledger kind of database, so that's where Amazon QLDB is very popular service when it comes to the ledger databases. And the next one is RDS, that is Relational Data Set Service, which is very popular again on AWS platform. And suppose you want to play with any fast, scalable, serverless time series database for IoT and operational applications, so you can play around with Amazon Time Stream Web Service or database. So this is all about various kinds of databases available on AWS platform. When it comes to the end user compute, generally we use the desktop application, right? Desktop operating system. And that's where AppStream 2.0 service on AWS platform is very useful. So it is a stream desktop application which runs on any web browser. Then there is another service that is workspaces. So desktops in cloud. So suppose you want to set up your desktop in cloud environment, so you can leverage workspaces service from AWS side, and workspace web, which is cloud native secure web access. So that's where cloud space web is very important. Next service, front end web and mobile. So you want to do anything the mobile front, there are these four services available on AWS platform. So the first one is AWS Amplify. So AWS Amplify is a complete platform and framework and tools and app services for developing, building, testing, and running mobile and web application. Okay. Moving on to the next one, which is AWS App Sync. So AWS App Sync is real-time data sync using GraphQL for mobile and web application, online and offline. So that mobile data sync up, if you want to do for using GraphQL, you can use AWS App Sync. Now moving on to the next one, which is device farm. So what is device farm? It is test Android, iOS and web application on real devices in the cloud. Moving on to the next service, that is device farm. So if you want to test Android, iOS, web application on real devices in cloud, you can use device farm. And if you want to securely and easily add location data to application, you can use Amazon location service as part of the front end web and mobile category on AWS. Moving on to the next category, very interesting one, that is IoT. So if you want to develop your own IoT application and you want to leverage various services available on AWS platform, so these are those services. So the first one in the list is FreeRTOS. So what is FreeRTOS? Is an IoT operating system for microcontrollers. So it is a operating system available on AWS platform. IoT one click is trigger AWS Lambda functions from simple devices. So from edge devices, if you want to trigger anything, so we have IoT one click application. Then we have IoT analytics. So it collect, process, store, and analyze and visualize data of IoT devices. Next service is IoT cover. Connect devices to the cloud. So that connection happens using IoT cover. IoT device defender. So if you want to secure your fleet of connected IoT devices, you can use IoT device defender. So as part of the IoT, if you want to manage IoT devices using AWS cloud platform, so you can use IoT device management service. So you can manage as small as one device or as broad as millions of devices using IoT device management service. Moving on to the next service, which is IoT events. So this service detects and responds to events from IoT sensors, industrial IoT. So next service in the list is AWS IoT Fleetwise. So this service collect, organize and transfer vehicle data to the cloud at scale. So if you have any vehicle data you want to collect as part of the IoT service, you can definitely think of AWS IoT Fleetwise. Coming to the next service, which is IoT Green Grass, this service deploy and run the code. So as part of the IoT optimization on robotic devices, if you want to do this kind of things on IoT, so you can use IoT RoboRunner service available on AWS. The next service is IoT site-wise. So any data-driven decisions in the industrial operation, if you want to take, so you can use IoT site-wise service available on AWS platform. The next service as part of the IoT categorization is IoT Twin Maker. So this service easily create digital twins of real-world systems to optimize operation. So if you want to create any digital twin, you can use IoT Twin Maker. So this is all about IoT services available on AWS platform. Moving on to the next interesting topic, that is machine learning. So as part of machine learning, Amazon provides huge gamut of services. The first in the list is augmented AI. So suppose you want to learn anything which is related with human review of machine learning predictions. So you can use Amazon augmented AI. Then there is next service which is Amazon Code Guru. So intelligent recommendation for building and running modern applications. So that's where Amazon Code Guru at development level is useful. Amazon Comprehend. So suppose you want to analyze unstructured text data. So that's where Amazon Comprehend machine learning service is useful. Amazon Comprehend Medical. So anything which is related with medical text data want to analyze as part of the machine learning, you can use Amazon Comprehend Medical. Moving on to the next topic, which is AWS Deep Composer. So suppose you want to explore the things as a developer in generative AI side. So that's where AWS Deep Composer web service is very good as far as AWS is concerned. So generative AI is a topic of the market and very much talked about right now in the market. Coming to the next one is AWS Deep Lens. So deep learning enables video camera. So that video camera and capturing that data and doing that kind of activity. So that's where AWS Deep Lens are useful. Then next service is AWS Deep Racer. So fully autonomous 1/8 scale race car driven by machine learning. So I don't know what is this, but it looks like some race car and driven by machine learning. So that's where AWS Deep Racer is useful. Moving on to the next one is Amazon DevOps Guru. So it looks like if you want to do some automation as part of the email learning, you can use Amazon DevOps Guru. Moving on to the next service, that is Amazon Forecast. So Amazon Forecast is fully managed service for accurate time series forecasting. So if you want to forecast on time series data, you can use Amazon Forecast. Amazon Fraud Detector, name itself suggests that. So if you want to detect any fraud, right, you can use fraud detector machine learning web service as part of the Amazon. So if you have healthcare data, you want to derive some value out of that data, so you can use Amazon Health Lake email service available on AWS. Amazon Kendra. So Amazon Kendra is highly accurate enterprise search service powered by machine learning. Moving on to the next service, which is very popular, that is Amazon Lex. So build voice and text chatbots. So if you want to build your own chatbots, you can use Amazon Lex. Moving on to the next service, which is Amazon Lookout for Equipment. So this service detects the abnormal equipment behavior by analyzing sensor data. So anything you want to integrate with IoT and sensor data, that's where Amazon Lookout for Equipment service is important. Moving on to the next one, that is Amazon Lookout for Metrics. So this service accurately detects anomalies in your business metrics and quickly understand why. So again, as far as business metrics are concerned, applying ML algorithm on top of that data. So for that purpose, you can use Amazon Lookout for Metrics ML service. So the next service is Amazon Lookout for Vision. So this service identifies defects using computer vision to automate quality inspection. So if you want to capture image or video data and you want to do some lookout, so you have Amazon Lookout for Vision service available on Amazon platform. If you want to monitor your equipment service, end management of your equipment service, so you can think of Amazon Mentorship. So if you want to generate any insightful value out of data, so you can use Amazon Omics service available as part of ML category on AWS. Moving on to the next topic, which is DevOps. Again, very interesting. So if you want to build your career as a DevOps engineer on cloud platform, so all these services are very important. So first one in the list is AWS auto scaling. So if you want to do that auto scaling of the application, so you can use AWS auto scaling. AWS chatbot. So if you want to build your own chatbot application on AWS, you can use AWS chatbot. So if you want to templatize uh, creating and managing your resources on cloud platform, so you can use cloud formation service. And as part of user activity and API usage, you can use Cloud Trail service. CloudWatch is for monitoring resources and applications. AWS Compute Optimizer is recommended optimal AWS compute resources for your workload. So many times we end up purchasing heavy resources as far as AWS compute is concerned. So Optimizer is very good service which will give us right recommendation. So config is another service where you can track resources inventory and its changes, right? Coming to the next one is control tower. So it is easiest way to set up and govern a secure, compliant and multi-account environment. So if you want to have that multi-account environment, you can use control tower. So Grafana is very good tool which is used for visualizing dashboarding the collected data. So its AWS version is Amazon Grafana. And suppose you want automated incident response plan in AWS System Manager, you can use Incident Manager. Launch Wizard is the service which is used for guided deployment of the enterprise application. That's where Launch Wizard is useful. And suppose you want to set some rules on third-party softwares and their usage, you can use AWS License Manager. Work is another service in terms of the Shape and Puppet. So these tools again used for infrastructure monitoring. So you can use Shape and Puppet version on AWS in terms of Ops work service. AWS organization, this service is used for governance and management across AWS accounts. So when you set up too many AWS accounts and you want to manage them, then you can use AWS organizations service. So Prometheus is again very good tool for monitoring services as infrastructure monitoring, and its AWS version is Amazon Prometheus. Another service is there, AWS Proton, that is used for managing infrastructure, so developer can focus more on the coding. So infrastructure management you can do using AWS Proton. AWS Resilience Hub. So AWS Resilience Hub provides a central place to define, validate, track the resilience of applications on AWS. So what is the resilience quotient of those applications you can track using AWS Resilience Hub? AWS Resource Explorer. So this service search for and discovers relevant resources across AWS. So that resource exploration can use AWS Resource Explorer. Resource groups and tag editors. So while creating various resources on AWS, we do different tags, right? So AWS resource groups lets you search and group AWS resources. So that searching and grouping you can do using resource group and tag. Service catalog, it is used for creating and using standardized projects. Another service is there as part of DevOps, which is System Manager. So AWS System Manager is a central place to view, manage AWS resources. AWS Telco Network Builder, it is used for automate the deployment and management of telecom network on AWS. Trusted Advisor, it is used for optimization of performance and security. Moving on to the last service in the list is AWS Well Architected Tool. So this tool is used to learn best practices, measure and improve your workflows. So for that kind of improvements, you can use AWS Well Architected tools. So this is all about manage and governance as part of your DevOps stack. Moving on to the next topic, which is media services. So if you want to play with audio, video data, so that's where these services are very important. For transcoding purpose, we can use Elastic Transcoder. Then we have a next service which is Elemental Appliances and Software, which is on-premise solution for video processing and delivery. For manage interactive live streaming, we can use Amazon Interactive Video Service. Kinesis Video Streams, which is used for capture, process, store video streams for analytics and machine learning. The next one in the list is Media Connect. So it is a reliable, secure, and flexible transport for live video. Then the next one is Media Convert. So convert file-based content for broadcast and multi-screen delivery. So for that purpose, we use Media Convert. And Media Live is the service which is used to convert video input into live outputs for broadcast and streaming delivery. And media package service, which is a delivery to video to many devices using just-in-time format conversion. So multiple devices and their conversion can achieve using media package. Media store service, which is used for storing and delivering video assets for live or on-demand media. Media tailor service, which is used for personalize and monetize multi-screen content with channel assembly and server-side ad insertion. So ad insertion you can do using Media tailor. The last service in the list as part of the media services is Inval Studio. This service accelerates building a cloud-based content creation studio or set up your ThinkBox deadline render farms. For that purpose, we can use Inval Studio. So this is all about media services and their respective components. Moving on to the next category, that is migration and transfer. So as part of the migration transfer, we have application discovery services. So this service discover on-premise application inventory and dependency. AWS application migration service. So this service automate lift and shift migration. Okay, so for that activity, we can use this AWS application migration service. Database migration services for migrating your database services. Data sync is for syncing and simplifying and automating and accelerating bring data. AWS mainframe modernization. So AWS mainframe modernization, for that purpose we use this service. AWS migration hub. This service simplify and accelerate the migration of your data centers to AWS. So from your data center to AWS, if you want to do that migration, we have AWS migration hub. AWS No Family. It is a large scale data transport. AWS Transfer Family will manage support for SFTP, FTPs, and FTP. So these are all migration and transfer services. Coming to the next part, which is very popular on AWS platform, that is networking and content delivery. So if you want to have your own API gateway where you can deploy, build, and manage your API services, so that's where we have API gateway. AWS App Mesh. So it is for monitoring and controlling microservices. So we can use AWS App Mesh. AWS Cloud Map is for building a dynamic map of your cloud. CloudFront is global content delivery network. So CDN platform is very popular platform. And we have it on AWS side. We have a cloud. So if you want to have that dedicated connection to AWS, you can use Direct Connect. Global Accelerator. It is used for improving your application's availability performance using AWS Global Network. AWS Private 5G. Deploy and scale private mobile network devices. Route 53 scalable DNS and domain name registration. So if you want to do DNS and domain name registration, you can use Route 53. Route 53 application recovery controller. So monitor application recovery readiness and manage failures. And last one in the list is virtual private connector. So if you want to isolate cloud resources, you can use VPC as a networking and content delivery service, virtual cloud, private cloud. Coming to the next interesting topic, which is quantum computing. So if you want to explore, evaluate, and experiment with quantum computing, you can use Amazon Bracket as a quantum computing technology on AWS platform. Suppose you want to deploy and test some intelligent robotic application, you can use AWS Robo Maker service, which is available on AWS platform. Coming to the next one, which is satellite. So communicate in order to communicate with some satellite devices. So if you have that kind of service requirement as part of your business application, you can use ground station web service available on AWS platform. Moving on to the most important topic, that is security, identity and compliance. So we have almost 44 services as part of security. So the first one in the list is AWS Artifact. So it is security compliance report and agreement that you can do using AWS Artifact. AWS Audit Manager. So it is for continuous access control for risk and compliance. Certificate Manager. So for managing and deploying your SSL and TSL certificate, you can use Certificate Manager. And for hardware security modules, you can use Cloud HMS. Cognito is the service for consumer identity management and AWS credential for protected identity. Detective is used for investigating and analyzing potential security issues. And if you want to set up your own Active Directory on cloud platform, you can use Directory Service. And for central management of firewall rules, you can use AWS Firewall Manager. Duty. So Guard Duty is the service which is used for intelligently managing the threat detection to protect your AWS account and workforce. Another very important service we have on AWS, which is IAM, Identity Access Management, for giving the access to various resources on AWS. The next service in the list is IAM, Identity Center. So it is a successor of AWS Single Sign-On. It is used to manage workforce user access to multiple AWS accounts and cloud application. The next service is Amazon Inspector, Continual Vulnerability Management at Scale can perform Amazon Inspector. So various encryption keys management we can do using key management service. Amazon Message is used for classifying and securing your business critical content. Right? Amazon Private Certificate Authority. So for TLS, SSL configuration, you need certificate, right? So that you can configure that certification using AWS Private Certificate Authority. Resource Access Manager. So that is the service used for sharing AWS resources with other accounts, and secret management you can do using Secret Manager. So AWS Security and Compliance Center is nothing but security hub. If you want to manage or centralize all your security data with few clicks, you can use Security Lake. Then there is another service which is AWS Signer. So it is trusted or DocuSign kind of service available in order to check your code. So these services used for managing, analyzing, and enforcing permissions across your application. And the last in the list is WAF and Shield. So it is used to protect against denial of service attack and malicious web traffic. So this is all about security, identity, and compliance. Moving on to the last category in the list, which is storage. So again, storage plays very important role. So we have huge amount of data and take the backup of that data. So that's where we have AWS backup. And if you really, for EC2, you want to have some storage, right? That's where EFS comes into the picture. Then coming to the next one is AWS Elastic Disaster Recovery. So for scalable, cost-effective application recovery to AWS, you can use Elastic Disaster Recovery. And for fully managed third-party file system optimized for variety of workload, you can use FSX. And there is another scalable storage of the AWS cloud, which is still very popular. And if you want to archive at competitive price on AWS, you can purchase Glacier, and storage gateways there, which is for hybrid storage integration. So all these are the services available on this platform as part of your storage services. So you can see there were almost more than 20 plus services category as far as AWS is concerned, and hundreds of managed services are being exposed by each category. So this is all about Amazon Web Services. Please put in the comment section what services you plan to learn and implement as part of your AWS career path. Thank you for listening.